Welcome to the Full Steam Ahead podcast, the home of interesting conversations. And so if you're listening to this podcast, either put it with your feet up on the sofa, or maybe you're out for a jog, or maybe you're travelling to work, then I'm sure you're going to enjoy the conversation today. Because I'm joined by some people from our local artistic community here in Stockton. Alex, who runs the Arc. Good to see you, Alex.
Hiya.
And Scott, an artist who's performing at Arc this evening. So Scott, I can't believe you're performing at Arc this evening and you sat here having a conversation with me now. You seem pretty chilled out for a guy who's got a show.
I've done it 30 odd times or so up in Edinburgh during the festival, the Fringe Festival. So if I don't know it now, then I'm probably never going to know it. So yeah, I'm all right.
And so for people who are going to the show this evening, or maybe if they're not, do you want us to just tell a bit about what's your shtick? So what will you be getting up to?
Oh, so it's I do a lot of stuff with overhead projectors. So I tell stories with felt tip pens and acetate, and I make them kind of tell interesting stories about, I don't know, like the human condition or whatever. But it's specifically, I'm from the Tees Valley Projector Club, and I've came back to work recently after the death of my father and the loss of the family business to a bigger franchise. And maybe, without giving too much away, the character probably isn't ready to go back to work yet, and everything starts to unravel, and he's quite an unreliable narrator. Is probably the best way to describe it.
I must admit, Scott, like partway through that, I slightly lost track about who was you and who was your act. I presume that's part of the point of it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Glad to hear about an OHP as a schoolboy of the 1990s. I do hope that you've remembered your spare light bulb, because we all know you need that. And I think I should just say to our listeners as well, because they'll probably recognise your voice, where they might recognise your voice from.
I do voiceovers for, I've been doing voiceovers for Sky for 10 years. Is that what so like I used to do Sky 1, Sky Max, and now it's Sky Arts. So I can't say things like gonna do, I have to say going to do.
Well, that sounds very posh.
Absolutely.
Well, I can tell you, you didn't need to do that here. So you're all right. So if anyone's wondering, it's unmistakably the voice of Sky here with us today in Stockton. And Alex, I had a very enjoyable lunch in Arc earlier with you. We had a good chat about the art scene. And we've got loads of great, talented artists like Scott in Stockton, haven't we, really? And you're doing a lot to encourage that over at Arc.
Yeah, definitely, that's true. I mean, I think that's one of the things about a place like Stockton. It is really rich with amazing musicians, performers, writers, and I think the challenge is often that isn't known outside of Stockton. Sometimes it's not even known in Stockton either. So really a big thing that we're trying to do as ARC is trying to get people out there, make sure that people are aware of all of that talent that's existing, and also finding ways to support that talent as well, because obviously it can be a bit of a challenge when you're trying to make theatre, when you're trying to make pieces of work, when you're a musician starting out. The support structures aren't always there for you. So at ARC, we're really trying to make sure that we can kind of embed support, and that can sometimes mean money, not always, but sometimes it does. And then other times it can mean offer space, advice, just that general sense of support. So Scott's one of our associate artists. We've got a number of brilliant associate artists who are all based locally. And part of that offer to them is that they're able to use ARC as a home for them, really.
So what is an associate artist then? What do you do for that, Scott?
Well, I mean, I just get... So it depends. It depends for every associate artist. But I was living in Berlin during the pandemic. And then I came back to do a commission for a tour up in Northern Stage, that we were talking about earlier. And one of the things that made me stay in Teesside and stay in Stockton, obviously I've got family here and things like that, but also like I've got space at Arc. So, and I've got support at Arc, so I get producer support. So if ever I want to do an Arts Council bid, I'll try and write the creative idea out, it's like the outline of it, and then Alex and everybody at ARC will then put their heads together and change that into Arts Council like terminology and rhetoric. Absolutely, yeah, because it doesn't come naturally to me to do that. So I just want to do this show where where I get the overhead projectors out and I do a story about what I've just said earlier, and then they go, okay, right, and then we look for interesting angles on why the Arts Council might want to fund it.
But this sort of Arts Council bit of it, so I've done a bit of like grant stuff myself in the past, like in the arts and in research as well. And it just doesn't seem to me like a natural fit. If you're an artist, you're a creative person, and then you have to get stuck into this process of applying for grants for things as well. I mean, that must put a lot of people off, really.
Of course, yeah. People don't even know where to start, and it's like, I mean, I I graduated as an actor. Went to LIPA in Liverpool, and I used to work with this particular theatre company, and I'd say to her, like, oh, why don't you write a play about this? And she'd say, why don't you write a play about that? And I'd say, why don't you write a play about this? And she'd go, why don't you write a play about that? And I was like, I didn't know where to even start. And then obviously you go to work and say, like, I've got support from this other company who want to help me make something. Can you make that a reality? And then they do, or they did, or they have, and you know. So I'm very fortunate to be able to do that, and I know that if you have a good enough idea and you can build a relationship with everybody at ARC, then you know it's the opportunities there for you as well.
I'm really keen that we'll like encourage young people in our area who are like interested in arts to sort of find their way through that as well, and try and find a way to you know, do what you've done and sort of spend their life making creative things and giving people a lot of fun and a lot of enjoyment, and maybe reflecting a bit on their life as well. I'm wondering what you know. What they think of themselves and what they think of their community. And Alex, you must find this sort of talent all the time. You know, you unearth all of this talent in our local area. You know, what can we do to sort of nurture it, really?
I think there's lots of things. I think part of it is about supporting people like Scott so that people can see the trajectory that it might go on. And I think that feels like a really important element of it. But we also like try and make it as open as possible. So we have accessible ways that you can see performances at ARC. So we do a pay what you decide ticket scheme, which means that basically you don't pay anything up front. You can watch the show, and if you liked it, you can pay what you feel it's worth. So it gives like a lot of choice into the hands of artists. And we know for a fact that for young people in particular, that's meant they've been able to come on a number of different nights. So they've been able to see lots of different things. And hopefully that kind of just forms a bit of inspiration then for them in terms of thinking about what their creativity is like. But I think it is also as well about kind of trying to catch people at early stage of their career and offering them support in that regard and making them feel part of a network. So we have a freelancers network, both for new creatives, but also for existing creatives as well in the whole of the Tees Valley. And that is offering like business support, inspirational chats, again, like that. Sometimes just having someone saying, I've got this idea, and someone else going, that's a great idea, you should do it. That can be the catalyst that makes it happen, really.
Yeah, but you've got to see it, haven't you? You know, to get that sort of inspiration. So, you know, when you're saying about the pay what you think it's worth or whatever, it's maybe a bit risky. But at the same time, there's no barrier to going along, is there really? And for young people in our area, if they don't see this stuff, then they just won't know what it is.
That's it.
And and they've got to also feel like they could be part of that community as well. But I mean, Scott, you must have found times when it's difficult to make ends meet as an artist, I would imagine.
Well, yeah, because there's not a huge amount of money within the industry, and if I didn't do the commercial work with Sky, and there's an amount of like good fortune within that, and also an amount of hard work where like I always try and deliver to the best of my ability what I need to do. So I've been passed about from pillar to post within Sky, keeping that job. But at the same time, if I didn't have that job, I probably wouldn't even be doing it anymore, because I don't know where I got the money. Mm-hmm. You know, because it's even when it comes to like when you're doing commercial stuff for adverts, like you might get paid, let's say like £10,000 for an advert for like a day's work, 2 days work, but you might get one job in your career, you might get 2 jobs a year, but the amount of jobs that you don't get, that £20,000 is what sees you through that year. You know, or even like just work on telly and that. It's not, there's never a great amount of money. We do it for the love of doing it, and because we enjoy telling the stories, and we want to give people a kind of a reflection of themselves almost, you know, like.
Yeah, that's exactly it, and I think like, clearly, you know, ARC as a centre for supporting that kind of activity in our local area. We're really lucky that Alex, that you and your team are there, that you get, you know, some national support to do that, but equally you have a challenge running that business as well. But you've got some big shows happening too. I mean, I've got a programme here that you gave me earlier with Eddie Izzard on the front. So you've got quite a range of different performers, haven't you, coming from all over the country to ARC? Yeah,
that's it. And I think it's really nice to have brilliant performers that are known nationally, possibly globally, like Izzard, and then also shows that are made locally as well by soon-to-be known globally and internationally, Scott Turnbull. So, you know, I think it's that those things sitting side by side is really important as well. Again, partly that thing about just giving people a really broad palette to enjoy and be inspired by. And yeah, we receive subsidy from the Arts Council and also from Stockton Borough Council, which we're really grateful for. And if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be able to continue. But that doesn't, unfortunately, cover all of the costs. You know, everyone knows costs have gone up. Running a building the size of ARC, it's great that we've we've got so many spaces, but just like keeping
So,
the heat.
like for people,
running.
there's, I'm sure people are listening to this podcast from all over the world. So wherever they are, like, and we're talking about ARC because like we know what it is.
Yeah.
But like, some people might not have even heard of Stockton.
Oh, yeah, right, okay.
So that's possible.
Yeah.
So what is it? What is ARC? Tell people what is it?
So it's a multi-art form art centre, and really from our point of view, it's a home for communities, and that might be communities of artists, but it might be communities of interest as well, people who live locally. We've got a number of different spaces, so we offer theatre shows. We've got a studio space, which is kind of for smaller experimental work. We've also got a bigger theatre where we can kind of put on more of the sort of larger touring shows or dance shows. We've also got a big flexible gig space, so we do a lot of comedy, do a lot of music as well, and also host various types of events. We've also got one of Teesside's only independent cinemas as well in our basement, which makes it sound a bit dingy, but it's a great little space. And so there we can show real independent film, locally made films, and also the best sort of foreign films around as well, just trying to kind of give that offer. And we've also got a gallery on our top floor as well, so it's kind of lots of different art forms there.
I mean, I think I was telling you last time we met, because you were saying you had dance on. I was saying I'm actually quite a fan of dance. I really like it, which surprised me. So I was probably in my 30s before I ever went to see a dance show, and I was just totally immersed in it. I really enjoyed it, and I think that's like if I wasn't exposed to that when I was younger. I went with no preconceptions, and it just really like gripped me. Yeah. And I always feel like that when I watch a dance performance now, and that's the sort of thing I think we want to try and inspire in people, isn't it? Really, and give people in our area that sort of opportunity.
I think sometimes why shouldn't a town like Stockton have access to all those things? One of the shows that we've commissioned recently, which was on 2 weeks ago, I think, at our place, I can't quite remember when, but it's about to go off on tour. But it was a co-commission with Sadler's Wells, which is a big dance company, and also is a.
So for people who haven't heard of Sadler's Wells, it's like literally like the Royal Opera House of dance, essentially.
Yeah, it's like the home of dance, really, isn't it? So, it's amazing to be able to collaborate with those people, and absolutely, why shouldn't those companies be seeing Stockton, being connecting with Stockton, and those artists who are making that show were with us for 4 weeks, devising, rehearsing the show. So they've probably embedded themselves, and they work with the community cast as well. So they've responded to the people of Stockton to make that show, and that's now going to go on tour across the UK. It will probably go on tour beyond that as well. So we're really excited to have those kind of partners, and we've got brilliant. There's a company called Payne's Plough, which is like a really renowned new writing company. They won a Fringe first up in Edinburgh. They've kind of been, how long have they been going for? They've been going for years, 50 years, something like that. Yeah. But anyway, they're an amazing company, and they're bringing their show up to us as well. And I think it's really important that we're able to say, look, Stockton can have these things. You can come and see these. These are on your doorstep. And also, we can, you don't have to pay anything up front. So it's a real treat.
When you say they're a writing company, what does that mean? They encourage people to write plays?
You know better than I, Alex, but I guess new writing is, it'll be funded to create new and interesting contemporary drama for.
That's it, yeah. They were sort of really renowned in terms of supporting like playwrights, really, so specifically writing plays. Because what Scott does is something slightly different, I'd say. It's like kind of what we talk about as sort of devised theatre, but I mean, Scott's work is really unique. And actually, they said, one of the reviews, I think, said there's nothing else like it at the festival when it was up in Edinburgh. Wow. Which, to say that about the Edinburgh Fringe, which has got something like 2,000 shows, is pretty impressive. 4,500, sorry, I'll get the exact number, but yeah.
I'm big on numbers.
How long have you been going up to Edinburgh then? Is it like you've been multiple times? So
well, yeah, because like I say, I used to be like a jobbing actor, so I'd go and I'd do like other people's like gigs and get like merrily drunk and then rock up on the morning and be like, here we go. And now I'm not doing that anymore because it's my head on the block. Yes. So, but yeah, so yes, but it did a solo show in 2017, and it's been a long time because of COVID and everything. And then this time, because of what I keep on meaning to mention, is like Tees Valley Artist of the Year, which was like there was an amount of money that was given to me as an award and another 4 artists to give me a yearly wage.
That's amazing.
Absolutely, yeah. So for 2000 and between 24 and 25, I had an amount of money whereby I was able to make art and make work with no preconceived or like no pressure for it to amount to anything really. But there was a lot of milestones set in place where you set yourself these targets with the help of the company or whatever, and it was it was a really beneficial year for me.
Was that when you sort of did your first 2017 show then? Was it around that time?
Oh no, this was so. I'm talking about like that's recent. That's this year. It's just gone. That's why we ended up taking the show up to Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Because the amount of money was there kind of to support me financially, but then we did like a big crowdfunder because it cost about £16,000 to take a show to Edinburgh, and then you talk about like artists and why it's so important that working class artists and people from this area get the opportunity to go up to Edinburgh, because I don't know anybody, there's not many people who can pull £16,000 together. And I'm not saying that's because of all the support and help and like the community of people around who've helped to do that.
Yeah, but I think you're like really right to mention that about sort of working class artists as well, and getting that because people talk about diversity a lot, but how much like diversity of like people coming from places like Stockton do we see somewhere like Edinburgh? You're right, £16,000 is it's a big barrier. Where were you performing then? Because it's often like the back room of a pub or something like that, isn't it? Is that where you were?
No, it was at a place called Summer Hall, which was a bit of a boon, wasn't it? We kind of fell into that because they had a spare room, and it's a great like a specific kind of like quite well renowned theatre, contemporary arts kind of place, isn't it?
Yeah, it's based in the sort of university. I think it's the old like vet labs or something like so. Yeah, and like I think the space that Scott was in was the former women's locker room or something like that. It was kind of so it was properly
some sort of heritage to it then, I suppose.
It was like one of the things is like welcome to the our marquee performance space at Summer Hall, and I'd do that and point at like the mould holes on the side of the wall, and everyone would go ha ha ha. But yeah, it was.
One of the things that was amazing though about it was I think that there was someone from Teesside in every performance, wasn't there? Yeah. Like because Scott has
get everywhere.
Yeah, I know, it was great though, but like it felt like people were really supportive. I mean, obviously people were supportive because they gave you some money to get up there, but like there were other people then who you'd never met before in your life and who were there to support. So the more we can get the work out of Stockton and let people know that it's happening, I think the more it'll connect.
Well, it was the same in my job, Scott. When I was travelling all over the world doing engineering, there was always someone from Middlesbrough or Stockton there. Yeah, it's all over the world. I don't know if I've ever told you, I've performed at the Arc.
Have you?
Yeah.
That's news. No, great. What did you do?
Well, can you guess what I was doing at all?
No. Dance?
No, no, it wasn't actually. I thought you might have said brass band because you're not playing a brass band.
Of course.
But I wasn't, because I'll tell you what I was doing, because you are host to our very own Café Scientifique.
Yes.
Which I really hope will continue and will keep going as well. I think it could do with a bit of extra support, actually. So if there is anyone out there interested in helping supporting Café Scientifique, then get in touch with ARC, I'd say. But they invited me along to come and do a talk at one of their events. And that sort of thing is very much a performance. You're talking about a technical subject, but it's got to be accessible. You need to engage the audience. It sounds, Scott, like you would do that really well, because if I'd had an overhead projector type thing, would have
talk about that for hours. It
would have worked really well. Have you got one of those scrolly things on your overhead projector?
I don't. I wish I did, because like I've got a great big long rolls of stuff sometimes, and I feel like that would be absolutely perfect.
Need one. You take me back to A-level chemistry lessons now. I'm not entirely sure if that is such a good memory. But do you know, one of the artists I saw recently at ARC who I really enjoyed seeing was Luke Wright, the poet. And I saw him last year. I missed him this year. I'll hopefully come back and see him next year. And I don't know how he produces as much material as he does, because he does this every year, doesn't he? And that's another great way to sort of introduce people to different art forms, isn't it? Because performance poetry is very different to try the sort of dry experience of reading poetry at school, isn't it? Yeah. And then when you're like, if you get, you get local schools in visiting and all that sort of stuff. If you've got kids who are maybe haven't been so inspired by their English literature lessons, like how do you sort of energise them? How do you get them to do that?
I think it's about making it real, isn't it? I think that's a lot of the time it is when it's just, particularly when you talk about performing plays or whatever, it can be quite flat and dry. So it is about getting people up. So, we do a number of workshops. Scott's done a number of workshops as well, which are kind of active, getting up on your feet and thinking on your feet and being creative on your feet. And I think when you can offer those opportunities for people, that makes a lot of difference in terms of their sort of confidence, their creativity as well, and their kind of self-belief comes really to the fore. We run a project called We Are TSA Team with Corner House Youth Project and Urban Chaos, and we do a lot of dance work with them. And just kind of that opportunity to express yourself in some way just really makes such a world of difference to those young people.
When I'm sort of out and about, if I talk to people, I say, where I'm from, they think of Teesside as being like the home of industry more than anything else, I think. But I know that we've got a lot going on here in the arts and culture scene as well. And I wonder, like Scott, you know, when you're sort of trying to inspire young people to come and get involved in that, what sort of difference it can make to people's lives? I mean, what sort of difference did it make to your life as a young kid, you know, to get involved in this?
I mean, I spoke to my dad recently, and I said to him, like, if he still lived with me as a child, because my mum and my dad split up when they were young, I said to him I would have been an engineer, or I would have done something different to what I did because I was scared of my dad. You know what I mean? And it was, I'm not even scared of him. I think it's that the pressure that goes with getting a proper job. Yeah. And because he lived away and my mum was so kind and caring, Dad would be like, oh, when's he getting a proper job? When's he getting a proper job? And then eventually just this, you know, through a little bit of experimentation and just trying different things for a little bit growing up, I figured out that what I was good at school was the performing arts and the acting, and then it's made a difference in the way that, like, I never wanted to leave Stockton, and I left Stockton, and it opened my eyes in so many different ways. Like, you know, like there's so much out there going on, and then bringing some of that stuff back to Stockton with me, and also so telling the stories about Stockton and from the perspective of somebody from Stockton, but also bringing some of those ideas from, like, you know, externally. And yeah, it's been, for me, it's been fantastic.
That thing about, like, getting a proper job, I think, like, we all feel that, you know, when you're living, like, across the northeast, really, you know, there's so much pride, rightly, I think, in work, you know, but at the same time, the other side of it can be people feeling like that's not for me, that's not the sort of thing I could do.
Do you know, I used to go to the pub with my brother's friends, and they'd say to me, when are you getting a job? Because obviously they'd be buying me beers, and I'd be like, oh, I'm a free spirit. I remember saying that.
Yeah. That's canny, that. I think I might try that next time. Yeah.
And that didn't go down too well, you know, and it's like, but the thing is, I was like, I don't want a job. Yeah. I don't want to get a job and just do that same job for the rest of my life. I want to find out what it is I want to do. And so, you know, I was very lucky in a lot of ways to be able to have the time and the care and the support around me.
Well, I'd say the confidence as well. You know, of course, you're talking about a lot of peer pressure there. You know, you could be concerned about your future and so on as well. I mean, confidence, Alex, you must see this with the kids who walk through the door, must be a big issue for kids from our local area to feel like it's definitely for them, you know?
Yeah, certainly. Like, I think young people particularly, I mean, they're facing so many different pressures. It can be very easy to lose yourself within that. And I think one of the things that creativity does is it gives you that opportunity to find yourself and to reflect yourself and be able to establish who you are a bit more. So I think, obviously, we want to inspire people to come and join the industry and to become actors and performers and theatre makers. But actually, just having creativity in your life, I think, can make a world of difference. I think we spoke earlier on about the creativity within industry, within, you know, that opportunity to kind of reflect some element of inspiration within your work, whether that's something that you're doing that's kind of a manual thing, or whether that's something a bit more kind of esoteric, I guess, in terms of the way you're thinking about it. I think just that level of creativity in your life is a real lifesaver, I'd say. Well,
it's a natural human instinct, I think, isn't it? Whether it's like 3,000-year-old cave paintings or whatever, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. I was going to say there as well, one of the things that I say sometimes in my show is, I wouldn't dare. And that's something you hear so often, right? I remember a friend came to Stockton and they said, kids here grow up so quickly. Yeah. And that thing of I wouldn't dare is because they feel like this isn't for them, that they're scared to make a fool of themselves. Yeah. And to make a fool of yourself allows you to make some really mad choices and to dare and to dream. And if you're not dreaming because you're too scared of what other people will think, then that's really going to stifle what you can do and where you'll go.
I think it's about imagination, isn't it? If we can imagine a different future, then actually the possibilities are endless, and that's what we want to be encouraging young people to do.
Yeah, and I totally recognise that. I mean, despite the fact that when I was 14-year-old, I was walking around in a brass band uniform, I was very self-conscious, and, like, you know, that, like, I wouldn't dare. You're absolutely right. You know, I wouldn't have had that confidence to do those sorts of things, and then you get to a point where you don't care anymore. But it's kind of nice if you can learn it earlier as well, isn't it? Yeah. That's great. I mean, we've got, like, quite a good artistic and performing arts community here in Teesside. I don't know, Scott, you want to just tell us a bit about what's going on in Stockton or in the local area, the sort of performers and artists that we've got around here?
It's a difficult question, because I think there's a lot of there's a lot of bands, there's comedians, and what's one of the things with theatre is there are theatre makers. There's Umar Butt, there's Luke Rutherford, there's Audrey Cook, of course. You know, and the people who I work with within the TVNC, which is like the Tees Valley New Creative Network. So there's loads of like talented people kicking about and doing stuff. But I find that with theatre in particular, like the stuff that what I try and do is like I do like the fine line between like comedy and theatre. So it's quite irreverent, you know. People come along and they have a good time, and they're surprised that they're having a good time and they're feeling something, you know. And it's like, and I feel like getting people to come and see bands is one thing, and getting people to come and see comedy is another thing. But then theatre, it's almost like, I know my director came. And he's directed loads of big comedians like Milton Jones and Josie Long, the Spy Monkey. He's done loads of stuff, and he's talking to this guy, gave him a lift. This kind man outside Lidl was like, "I'll take your home, mate." So he's driving home in the car with Ed, my director, and they're having a laugh, and he's saying, "Oh yeah, and I've done this," and he said, "Oh, I love that, I love that, I love that," and he said, "Oh, well, my mate's doing a theatre show over at Arc. I'll get you a ticket." "Oh no, I don't do theatre, mate." And it's like that. "No, but it's all the things that we've been talking about." He's like, no, don't do theatre. He's like, "It's a free ticket." And he's like, "You're all right, mate. See you later." And then it's like, so I think like there's so much talent there, and it's like, and it's for audiences to come along and just take a punt on some of that newer stuff and see that it is, you know, funny and entertaining, meaningful, whatever. You know?
Getting people in. But I mean, you were telling me a bit earlier, Alex, about how you did manage to drag some people in from the local pub. I don't know if have you told Scott about this?
I haven't told him about
You've got to
this
tell
yet.
him this
But
story.
So when we were doing a show called Free, which was the co-commission with Saddle as well. So obviously the company were up here for the full 4 weeks. Yeah. So like I don't want to say they were in the sun in every night, but they were definitely there a few times. Yeah. And they managed to persuade some of the locals to come in and watch the show. And I don't think they knew what they were coming in for at all, but they came in and they really loved it, and they were like, "We're definitely going to come back again," and all that kind of stuff. It was brilliant to see them in there, because in terms of like that sense of community, that's one of the things I love about theatre, is it brings people together, it gets everybody in the room together, and you kind of share a moment, share ideas. And actually they were there dancing away with everybody else and just having an absolute blast. And they said to us they'll definitely come back and see more stuff. So hopefully we've kind of converted a few people there through that. But it was really brilliant, really great to see that.
Dragging the regulars out of a pub.
Absolutely,
It's definitely one way to do it. I'm told that is a bit of a technique at the Edinburgh Festival, actually, to try and boost the audience a bit. But we have got a strong demand, though, for audiences in Stockton as well, because we've got a number of venues. I mean, we're talking a lot about the Arc here, but we've got a little cluster of venues.
Yeah, there's some brilliant venues in Stockton. I think for a town of its size, like, it's got an amazing array. Like, you've got the Globe, you've got the Forum in Billingham, you've got just round the corner, you've got the Georgian Theatre Royal, you've got the Q Bar as well, and you know. So in terms of places to go, things to go and see, you've got an amazing set of choices there, and a range of things. And we've got a kind of group of venues, and we're talking together about how we can maximise that and make the most of having those venues. Because again, at the moment, I think in the world, without wanting to be too depressing, you know, things can feel quite divisive. But actually, when you get together and you experience something creative, something cultural, it can be really transformative, I think.
That getting people together, we see that in Stockton with our festivals as well, like the International
absolutely.
Riverside Festival, such a fantastic time for people to come together in the local community. So, look, it's been great talking to you both. I've really enjoyed it. It's been a pleasure to meet you as well, Scott, and I wish you well for the show this evening. And I'm so disappointed I'm not going to be there. But I'll have to keep up to date with when you're performing and get along to one of your performances. And if you ever need any help changing the bulb on your overhead projector, then I'll be happy to drop in and help you with that. So,
or a dancer.
Yeah, or a dancer. I'm not sure about my dancing capability, but I'd be happy to watch, certainly. So, look, thanks to both of you. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you both. This is the Full Steam Ahead podcast, and we've had a great talk about culture and the arts that are happening in Stockton. Stockton's a great place to experience arts, both at the Arc and our other theatres, the Georgian Theatre and the Globe Theatre as well. So if you're in the North East or Teesside, you know where to come for a great cultural experience. Bye for now.